The governor is accusing oil companies of price gouging Californians during the recent energy crisis.
So the governor wants some type of legislative action, some kind of penalty, if you will. Some folks have said maybe a tax against the oil companies. They're stopping short of calling it a tax in Sacramento. Instead, they're saying maybe it might be a penalty, using that wording to target those excessive profits by the oil companies.
With SBX 12, California has sent a clear message to the oil industry. Open your books and prove that you're not price gouging. Otherwise, you, big oil, will pay the price, not consumers.
None of this was possible unless you were all willing to stand up and stand tall and have the courage of your convictions to truly represent 40 million Californians that were in desperate need to understand why. Why is it that we're paying at peak $2.61 more per gallon of gasoline than the national average? And we have a responsibility to follow through in terms of meeting the needs of those communities and those that will be impacted by this transition. And that is laid out prescriptively in this legislation as well, a responsibility to do that truly justly and to make sure we put real meat on those efforts. It's not just a rhetorical exercise. So across the spectrum, demand and supply, a strategy, a plan, a regulatory process of inclusivity and transparency, a framework of focus on dealing with unintended consequences, a responsible approach, but at a scale no jurisdiction has ever advanced anywhere that we know of, anywhere else on the globe.
California gas prices are the highest in the U.S., but there's no proof of price gouging. Remember when Gavin Newsom was continually talking and blaming high gas prices, specifically in California, on price gouging? And then Biden, was given the teleprompter, talk about price gouging. He was just it's the reason that they're so high is because of price gouging. And everybody's looking around going, no, I don't think so. I think it's because of self-induced policy. Well, here we are a couple of years later. What do we find out? CBS News investigation, California, does a 6-month-long deep dive into price gouging. They can't find any. What did they find? Let's get into it. Here we go. I remember specifically thinking, what a load of nonsense. Because I'm also in a state where politicians want to blame anybody else but our own self-induced Climate Commitment Act. Just a bunch of crap. Climate Commitment Act, which loads up a buck of taxes or some ridiculous thing. We've got all these taxes loaded up into our gas price as well. Washington State consistently has gas almost as high, if not higher than California, all the time. The only state that's in there is being high gas prices is Washington, California, is Hawaii, because they're an island in the middle of the Pacific. Bring everything in, right? So, for years, California leaders accused oil companies of price gouging. Instead, a 6-month-long CBS News California investigation revealed a complicated reality shaped by state policies, refinery closures. Have we talked about this before? I'm not sure. Yes, we have. Global supply risks that uniquely impact California's isolated fuel market. I have had on this show, Mike Ariza. He's a refinery expert. I've had Stan Ellis, Kern County, the 32nd district, I think it was, assembly member of California. And we've talked about this. There's no price gouging going on here. All of this is because of California's policies, all of their policies trying to get off of, oil and gas and go to this clean energy before there's the ability to do so. It's like, hey, look at us. We're leading the way. Yeah, well, you're leading the way into insolvency because nobody can afford gas. So California leadership has literally run refineries out of business. We covered Valero closing down. It's Benicia. They took $1 billion and said, we want to write off this refinery. We don't want to sell it. We don't want to idle it. We don't want to, mothball it for the future. We want to take $1 billion, close her down because we can't do business in California. And there's only like 7 refineries left out of 40 something, a few decades ago. And the remaining refineries are basically saying, hey, we're going to be out of here unless you guys make some alterations to the way that we are required to basically, foot the price of producing gasoline in California when these importers don't have to do that. There's a real power struggle, and California leadership just wants to eliminate refineries, but doesn't want to take responsibility when you eliminate those refineries. You've closed down your supply of gas and oil products. You got to import it. And then you're hosed when something happens like, I don't know, our current Iran war. Although I should say our current 2-week ceasefire, right? So you've got a situation that's completely self-imposed. Same thing in Washington state, but to way lesser extent, because California has massive oil reserves. They've got $1.8 billion of barrels known that could be refined and brought to the surface, and away we go. But no, they don't. They want to constrict because they're convinced, windmills and solar energy, we can get there. It'll happen. And if that were true, it'd be happening right now, but it's not true. So why CBS News California invested what they found? California gas costs more, higher taxes, labor and business costs, environmental programs, regulations, state's unique fuel blend drive up baseline prices. These are known quantities. It's not price gouging. That's just absurd. That's stupid. When all those liberals, all those progressives got up there behind Gavin Newsom and said, they're price gouging. All you're left with is you guys are a bunch of morons. You guys are a bunch of minimal thinker morons that think that the California public can't work its way around those things that we just talked about. California's got its own unique, special blend of herbs and seasoning in their gas. It's got to be cleaner than everybody else. Not everybody can refine it. And right now, California is getting the vast majority of its gas through imports from Asia. You know how imports from Asia get to California? Yeah, on these big oil shipping container ships that just billow emissions into the air. How is that ecologically sound? It's not. It's complete hypocrisy. But let's blame price gouging. Let's blame price gouging on this issue. Oh yeah, price gouging. Well, here we go. Another Democrat claim just absolutely filleted to reality, which is, there just wasn't any. Political narrative is shifting after failing to prove price gouging and grappling with the impact of 2 shuttered refineries. State leaders are now publicly acknowledging the need to incentivize oil companies to stay. Does anybody else find this just, I would say hilarious, but it's so bad for the California consumer that there's absolutely nothing funny about it. But what it is, it's leadership in California going, oh God, we screwed this one up. We are hosed. We're hosed. Chevron, after 100 and something years, we're going to move out of California. We're moving to Houston. Phillips 66 just shut a refinery down in October. And we talked about Valero shutting another one down in end of February. Closed. It's restricted the supply of domestic oil and gas production in California by somewhere between 18 and 22%. Call it 20%. You took a fifth of California's ability to produce its own gas and said, let's cut our own throat. But let's blame the oil refineries for price gouging when it goes to the moon. Why refineries are leaving? Rising costs, increasing regulations, long-term policy uncertainty, and shrinking returns. These are publicly traded companies, right? They need to go to their shareholders and say, here's what we are doing to give you a return on your investment. And if they're looking at the numbers on what it takes to make a profit in California, if there is one, and right now they are absolutely losing money. And I am by no means in love with big oil, but you've just got this economic reality that progressive leadership that is just bound to die on the cross of this Green Deal of clean energy. And they are doing a great, great job of doing that because all the refineries are leaving. The refineries are just, hey, we can't make a go of it. We're looking at our books and we can't make enough money. We can't provide a return to our investors. Our investors actually drive the stock price up when we exit California because California is such an uncertainty, long-term policy uncertainty. We don't know how this is going to go, but if there's any historic guidelines, we're going to say we're out of California. Why global conflict matters. To me, the short answer to that is because that exposes an already existing situation of California's gas prices are high, Washington State's gas prices are high because of Climate Commitment Act. So self-imposed policy. You layer on a little deal where you constrict the supply further by the Strait of Hormuz. Boom. Prices spike up. Well, let's blame price gouging, right? $6 per gallon. California drivers pay the highest gas prices in the nation, $6 a gallon. Last time gas hit $6 a gallon, Gavin Newsom began accusing oil companies of price gouging because it's like, hey, it's them. It's not me. It's them, right? He thinks everybody's a moron. I think California Democrats in general think that their constituency is just flat stupid. Because who would actually believe this? If you've been living in California for long enough, you've been looking at the pump, you realize what's going on. You realize these refineries are just going down, down, down in numbers. And what's going to happen? You're going to have to get that gas from somewhere. You're going to have to get that diesel. You're going to have to get that jet fuel from somewhere. Got to import it. And this isn't impacting just California. You've got Nevada, you've got Arizona, you've got the West Coast. California has so many defense stations, where military operates out of, and it takes a lot of fuel to fly those jets. If you don't have enough fuel, you're grounded. I mean, it's wild. It's wild. The exact same thing is happening in Australia. They've gotten rid of all but 2 of their refineries. They used to have 12. They've cut it down to 2 for the same reasons California has. Oh, we want to be clean. We want to be no longer dependent upon big oil, but we don't really have the ability to make that conversion yet. Well, we're going to go ahead and do it so we can virtue signal. Look at us. We're clean. They are literally rationing gasoline. Right now, they're rationing gasoline. Gas prices in Australia will go to like $20 a gallon. They're already at, $12 a gallon? I mean, you think gas prices in California, Washington, and Hawaii are high? Look at some gas prices in Australia. I haven't looked for the last few days, but I can't imagine there's been a huge drop with everything going on internationally, right? More than 2 years later, state officials say they found no evidence of illegal price gouging. I'm sorry, what? What? This just wasn't a thing? Huh. Weird. That's a shocker, isn't it? Instead, 2 refineries shut down, taking nearly 20% of the state's refining capacity. Let's see. Supply, demand. What happens when you shrink the supply? Gonna have to go back to Econ 101 and 1987. Oh, price goes up. Weird. Yeah, if consumption stays the same. And California consumes a massive amount of gasoline and gas-related products. It's a huge consumer. Those numbers are not going down. That's another thing the governor's office would like you to believe is that consumption has been reduced. Therefore, the number of refineries is reduced as well, which is a normal thing, a normal ebb and flow. It's not. The consumption has stayed virtually identical. And you've shut these refineries down. And here we go. California is now outsourcing to Asian refineries to make more of California's special gas blend. Perfect. And then they bring it in. I talk about the absurd situation where you've got gas being refined, you got gas being pumped in Houston and put on a ship and then taken out to the Bahamas, switched ships, goes through the Panama Canal, and then all the way out to the West Coast to import it into California. Does that make any sense at all when you've got 1.8 billion barrels sitting under the earth in California? No, it does not. But let's blame price gouging, because that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Environmental standards aren't as strict in Asia, and the refiners have to ship the gas back to California halfway around the world. In addition to increased pollution, transporting gas across the Pacific can take weeks, which agency heads and oil industry executive agrees leads to delays and supply volatility. What if the ships get turned back? What if there's a little bit of an international conflict? What if there's a big storm? What if there's a problem at the docks they need to come into, like a fire? These are all things that have happened, and that just puts an absolute spotlight on the fact that a state like California, a state like Washington, is extremely exposed to this massive price increase. Here's a breakdown of California-specific costs per gallon. You got sales tax, 2%, state climate programs, 10%, base taxes and fees, 15%, refining, 13%, distribution, 15%, federal tax, 5%, crude oil costs, 40%. And then there's this mystery surcharge. That's always been kicking around, hasn't it? There's this mystery surcharge. What's going on there? Somebody cut a deal somewhere, right? And that's just, I don't really know. It's a mystery surcharge. There's a mystery surcharge in California. Somebody cut a deal. Nobody's talking. All right, mystery surcharge. Refiners point to higher operating costs in California from labor to energy. Say much of the added costs occur after fuel leaves the refinery at the distribution and retail level. All right, it's not us, the refiners. You're blaming us for price gouging. It's the distribution. It's the retail. Okay. The whole thing is part of one extremely expensive system for the California consumer, because at the end of the day, what are you going to do? Are you not going to drive your car to work? You don't have a choice, right? You got to go. You just try and find yourself the cheapest gasoline you can and go from there, because literally, you're going to ride the bus? You're going to ride the bus around LA? Probably not. It's not a reality. So we've got a situation where California just went down this crazy train road of blaming the refineries. And now why refineries are leaving. This is CBS. So we talked about Valero, talked about Wellington, which we've already talked about. Those losses tighten supply in a state that's already operates as what experts describe as an energy island. California is an energy island. It doesn't have the massive pipeline it should, with no major pipelines bringing in gasoline from other states. Instead, it ships it to other states, Nevada, Arizona. Fewer refineries mean less in-state production and more pressure on prices. To the moon, right? California is a tough place to do business for refineries. So the whole thing, this is all due to self-induced policy, energy policy in California. California has hosed itself and now is in a situation, like at the beginning of this article, where politicians are, here we go, a shift in the political conversation. And you know what? I think a lot of this has to do with the three guys that I've talked to. Two of the three guys. I haven't talked to Professor Miche from University of Southern California, but he's in with two other guys, a refinery controller, former refinery controller, and also assemblyman from oil country in California. And they've basically said, hey, here's the deal. California is wildly exposed because of our own policy to these massive price increases. And not only that, but an entire West Coast defense issue where if something bad happens, West Coast is wildly vulnerable because you don't have enough energy, you don't have enough gas or oil, jet fuel products to fly the jets in case of an attack. So you're left with, okay, gas prices are really high in California. We've got a defense issue. And what's California doing? Yeah, hey, we're kind of rethinking this whole thing about the refineries. We don't want any more to leave because, good Lord, that's not looking good. The numbers aren't looking good here, boys and girls. They're not looking good. Refineries are okay now, right? Remember, we were just literally price gouging. We were accusing the refineries of price gouging, and now we're turning that back around. A shift in the political conversation, because now it's a hardcore economic reality that this is self-imposed silliness by California politicians who basically just want to virtue signal how clean their state is and a leader in clean green energy. How's that working out for you? How is that working out? Not that great. Not that great. Lawmakers are now weighing how to balance climate goals with the need to maintain. You know what? Take those climate goals and throw them out the window. That's what you need to do, because this is absurd. It's ridiculous. Throw them out the window and maintain a stable and affordable fuel supply to power the present. Today. We live in today, not this tomorrow. Well, we need to get there. This is what we got to do. Well, how's that working out for all those people driving 2 hours each way in LA traffic where their gasoline has gone from $3 something to $6 something? How's that working out for those people? You want to talk about a regressive tax? That is it right there. That is a regressive tax. Article ends with a new governor set to be elected, those policies and the cost of gas could soon change. All right. Okay. But right now, today, Californians are hosed. Washingtonians are hosed. The West Coast, if something really goes sideways, is hosed. And it's all because of policy that has been chosen. Going to go down this new Green Deal thing. Oh, it's going to be the greatest thing ever. And like most progressive policy, it just all of a sudden, it backfires. It backfires. And that's when we say, not we, but leadership who put the policy in place, they say, price gouging. Doesn't look like there was any. Doesn't look like there was any at all whatsoever. If CBS could find some price gouging, I think they'd come up with it, don't you? If CBS can find zero price gouging, hey, this is all just policy driven. This is just economic reality. We're coming back to that whole thing of, what's the difference between a right-wing conspiracy theory and the truth? About 6 months. In this case, it's about 2 years. Price gouging, no price gouging, 2 years. Weird, right? Anyway, thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again for being here. Bye for now.